The Silly Goose Gang Podcast.
Episode 42, Silly Goose Gang Podcast. And joining us from the west coast of America, we have Phil Folsom of My Wolf Tribe. So, Phil, thank you very much for joining us today.
Pleasure, gentlemen.
Now, we just wasted a good 10 minutes talking good shit off camera there. So, how ugly is your tartan? How ugly is this Mackay tartan?
It's not something I'd wear, tell you that. But my heritage is actually, I'm part Choctaw, and that's a Native American tribe over here.
Okay.
And I'm also part Scottish. So I always tell people that I'm a perfect storm of alcoholism, you fucks.
I was just going to say that. Scots have a reputation for drinking. Native Americans, certainly from what we see over here, they have the reputation for drinking. That's a good/bad combination for alcohol in arguments.
I just add that conversation. I've been sober for about 10 years. And probably saved my life. You know, there's a lot of us veterans and people in men's work. We call it triple D. You come back from war, drunk, disabled, and divorced. So as men, we got to start doing a better job at taking care of ourselves, taking care of each other, and good conversation to talk about.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It feels, feels like guys are on under attack from all directions. 2020, just for being a man. It feels like, especially if you're a masculine man, it feels like you get shit every direction, basically, for being a man. So, I know you combating, would that be the right way to put this? You're combating that. You're fighting against this kind of shit. Try to get us, keep us.
And hey, we deserve it. Like, let's be honest. We are getting shit on, but with a big portion of that we deserve. If you look at war, men starting them. The environment, we fucked it up. There's a bunch of shit that we can own, but if you're going to lay that at our feet, you should also bless us with the fact that we created it. Everything. Like, thanks for running water. Thanks for houses. Thanks for plumbing. Like, thanks for society. Yeah, we're in charge of hurting it, but we built it. So give us a little credit while you give us the blame.
Yeah, it's we did a podcast yesterday, and Ali made a very good point of, the problem is with that is good news doesn't sell, does it? So who wants to know about the good shit that anybody does? All the people want to know is the bad shit, because everybody wants the bad headline. So nobody cares that fucking man took us to the moon. That doesn't matter. Who gives a fuck about that? All you need to know is men are terrible and fucking everything up. So
it's a really loud thing, and this actually and I'm an anthropologist, so I study primitive people. I study biological evolution, and the biggest fear that tribal or communal organisms have is being excommunicated from the tribe, because it's a death sentence. So that's why shame is so powerful. When I say, "Hey, fatty," or we were talking about derogatory slang words before we were recording, right? Like, the reason why those words are so painful is that it brings shame and excommunication to us, which triggers a death sentence in our amygdala, it's the center of our brain. So when, like, on this podcast, you can have 100 dudes saying, "You changed my life. You guys are awesome," and you got one fuck who said, "Man, who the hell do you think you are?" And you're like, "Ouch! Who's this one person that doesn't like me?" Like, it's loud.
We did have one person who said we fat shamed somebody, and I don't even know I don't even know what we did to fat shame anybody. I don't know what that was. It was quite. It was one of those things where somebody gave us like a bad review on fucking Facebook or whatever it was, and it was like, you guys fat shamed somebody, and it was terrible. You guys aren't cool, and it was like, do we have haters? We've got haters for we've made it. Yeah, but I don't, we don't pay attention to those guys. The most important thing about having conversations in long form is that you can actually say something and then explain what you mean, rather than somebody just taking a little snippet for a headline and saying, Phil Folsom said this, he's a bad man. Yeah, but that's out of context with this part, so you have to listen to the whole fucking thing, right? So I'm just trying to. What did you say? What did you say that your part? What? Right?
Choctaw.
Choctaw.
Yeah, it's a Native American tribe.
Cool.
And there's actually a Chief Folsom of the Choctaw tribe in the 1800s, and he was a white guy that married into the tribe. I think something like that.
Motherfucking white guys being the tribe, man. That's fucking
he was a
half.
I think it was his son that became the chief. I haven't really dug into it, but there's a famous quote from Chief Folsom of the Choctaw tribe, and it says, the Choctaw Treaty has been ratified and our doom is sealed. We must now move to our new home in the setting sun in Oklahoma, which, sorry to all you Okies, but Oklahoma is not where you want to be, and it's not your first choice of where you want to live in the beautiful North American continent. So it's one of the things that they're not talking about a lot and right now we're being besieged by all sorts of social unrest about transgenders and Black Lives Matter and all. The biggest genocide in human history happened in my country, and we killed over 100 million Native Americans over the last 200 years. We decimated an entire fucking continent. And that's barely even taught in our school systems. Yeah. Like that's gigantic.
Yeah. That's
funny you're saying as well that a white guy ended up as the tribal chief, because from what I've read about it was more, I don't believe I've ever seen anything where it was a Native American left to join an inverted commas white civilization. It was always the white civilized guys going the other way and joining the Native American tribe that makes you think they were definitely onto something. And as you're saying,
Have you guys read the book Tribe by Sebastian Junger?
Yes.
I have not.
Sebastian is actually a friend of mine. He's a war correspondent and writer. And he wrote the movie Restrepo and a bunch of other really great books. And but in this short book, Tribe, he talks about, how we're a kinship-based organism. Like we're designed for really collaborative, reciprocal, small relationships with a bunch of tight people, and that we're a kinship-based creature born into a career-based world. And it's really the cause of what's damaging us is that when we're around strangers, we have anxiety. It's a scary thing. And even though, as powerful men who are trained in martial arts and lift weights and, all the shit that you guys do, when you're in an elevator with strangers, if you were to take a blood test, your cortisol, your adrenaline, and your norepinephrine, and all of your stress hormones are skyrocketing, because we know that the scariest animal on the planet is a fucking Homo sapien. We're the animals that caused most extinctions on every continent that we've gone to. And so when we're around strangers, it's really anxiety producing. So you ask yourself, how often am I around people who are not in my tribe? Every day, all the time. And so if you're wondering why there's so many people who are fat, well, cortisol, you gain weight when you're under stress. While we're sick, well, cortisol causes your sympathetic nervous system to turn off your immune system so you can survive. The cascading effect of the breakdown of our kinship systems is literally killing our species. It's dropping testosterone. It's dropping our immune system, our digestive health, our critical thinking. So we run out and burn down our cities. It's like, come on, dummy, what are you doing? You're burning down your own neighborhoods. Yeah. So what you're getting back to your point, people desperately need to be in tribes. And the moment us white folk came to the United States and we saw these healthy organizations called tribes, we were like, get me some of that. And we had to actually, we made laws here in the United States in the 1700s that white people were not allowed to join the tribes because we were losing our population joining the Native Americans because it felt good. It was like, hell yeah. And it's the reason why so many veterans have a hard time reassimilating and transitioning back into civilian culture, because civilian culture sucks at many different levels.
Yeah, absolutely agree. It seems to be, the general population are very much interested in fake bullshit that doesn't matter, doesn't mean anything, and has no value. So, that's why, we feel our best when maybe you're in the gym lifting with your buddies, or you're doing jiu-jitsu, or you're climbing a hill and you're going, fuck yeah, this is what life's all about, right? Modern culture is one of those things that's very strange. Really, if you think about how, I don't even know, what age are you, Phil?
53.
So yeah, you're a little bit older. You're a little bit older than us. I'm 35.
Yeah, a little.
Ali's 42. I'm 35. So you guys aren't too far apart. But within our lifetime, we went from having, I was probably part of the last generation that had no mobile phone, to now seeing kids who just have an iPad or a fucking iPhone in their hand constantly.
My daughter.
It's quite funny because I got an Instagram, our Instagram page got a follow the other day, and I'm going, who the fuck is this? And it was Ali's 10-year-old. Why the fuck is you got Instagram?
My fucking dog has an Instagram, bro. My daughter made my fucking dog has an Instagram. You can look it up. Nika Folsom.
Probably has more followers than me. But yeah, it's so our, this like shift in culture has happened in the last 15 to 20 years, where people are just looking at Facebook, looking at Instagram, looking at YouTube. It's ironic because we're doing all these things, but it's this weird shift in culture where one of the coolest things that I do personally is leave my mobile phone and go and climb a fucking hill on my own, watch the sunset. Just sit there and go, fuck, this is cool. That's one of the coolest things that you can do. So it's really reset. If you think about the span of human beings as we've been human beings, this is like 10 years. It's like literally nothing that this has happened. So it's not a surprise that it's kind of fucking people up a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. There's two different big operating systems that are existing at the same time in human experience. And our oldest one is called an honor-based system. It's where relationships reign supreme. And you'll do whatever it takes to maintain that relationship and your position in the tribe. It creates meaning and purpose and resiliency. It's everything. And it's our oldest operating system. And that honor-based code is the source of every example of heroism in the history of mankind. Like, if you're willing to sacrifice yourself, it's always for something bigger than yourself. Like otherwise you're going to try to stay alive, unless there's something more important than you as an individual, and that's the tribe, right? And it completely changes behavior, but you can only have about 50, max 100 people in your tribe, because you can't maintain this level of super deep bro shit, So when you start knowing more than 100 people, like when we went from villages to cities, all of a sudden, now I can't maintain my tribal connections with you. So we've shifted into what's called a pride-based culture, which is no longer based on our collective identity. It's based on our individual position and my car, my job, my house, my followers, all that. It's very, it's every external validation seeking, because that's what our hope is. And what we're missing is I will never be enough when it's only me, because I cannot give myself that blessing. I need you to tell me I'm enough. I need my bros to say, hey, man, way to show up. And then I go, oh, I'm safe, I'm seen, and I'm enough. I'm no longer inadequate. Because that's what fucking is breaking the modern man, is that we're inadequate. Because we never got initiated, right, into a full masculine psychology. So pride system has taken over our technology in a way that's really unhealthy. And the technology is not inherently unhealthy. In fact, the technology contains our hope of accessing the full scope of knowledge of our species. Right? Like you can study the meditation masters of ancient India. You don't have to go to India anymore and like find a guru. You can just go, top 10 meditation techniques, Wim Hof breathing. I can learn, jujitsu from at 10th Planet online, or, like I study with the Machados, with John Machado. And so like we are the first members of our species to have access to all the wisdom and knowledge of our entire species, So it's incredible. And look, I'm talking to you in Scotland, bro. It's fucking awesome. But if I stop using it for that sense of good and uplift and connection and growth, and I start using it for distraction now and chasing external fulfillment and validation, I'm done, because I'm never going to get enough. It doesn't matter if I've got 10,000 more followers, 100,000, 100 million. Like, is it ever enough? Not really.
No, it's very, very good points. I think it's funny because the very thing that, as you're saying, the very thing that is fucking us up is also a very good thing, because hopefully somebody out there goes, we're saying, this whole social media thing is fucking nonsense, but at the same time, somebody will find you via this and go, I like what this guy's fucking saying. How do I get in touch with this guy? Okay, he's there. Let me read about this guy, and then so it's those things where it's bizarre. So I guess it's kind of like how you manage all these different platforms and distractions in your life. How you manage them and go, I want to do this. All this is bullshit, and I can concentrate on
It becomes a tool. It becomes a tool, doesn't it? If all you have is a hammer, everything becomes a nail.
Hell yeah.
If you've got the full toolbox of social media, books, self-thought, a good group of guys around you that help you and work with you, it makes a big difference. Whereas if, as you're saying, sat in a soulless apartment in the middle of a big city surrounded by millions of people, particularly over in America with some of the big cities there, and all you have is your job in a cubicle, and then you come home at night and sit in your apartment, which is basically a cubicle, and just slide that slider all day long. It's not healthy. It's not healthy in any way.
I don't know. What I find is, because of my job, so I'm regularly in Edinburgh, Glasgow, some big cities, and people are so fucking rude. It's unbelievable. People won't, if you let them out of a junction, they won't wave, they don't acknowledge you, they don't say hello. Perfect example is, so like I say, I do a lot of Munros, Scottish Munros. So a month ago, I decided to go up Arthur's Seat, which is an old volcano in Scotland, in Edinburgh. It looks over the entire capital. It was really nice. Climbed it. There was hundreds of people. Not one single person even lifted a head up to say hello. Didn't even acknowledge you. Everybody head down, looking at the phone. Didn't look at you. The next weekend, I went to the north. I think I went to the Isle of Skye, actually.
Motorcycle races.
No, that's Isle of Man. That's Isle of Man. The Isle of Skye off the coast of Scotland, but every single person, how you doing? How you getting on? I was speaking to guys from fucking India, guys from China. Everybody was just saying, how you doing? All those local Scottish guys, English guys, everybody. How you getting on? Lovely day. Yeah. Nobody in Edinburgh even fucking acknowledged it. It's bizarre. It's and I see it constantly with work. People, people in these big cities, man, are, and like as Ali's saying, if you're sitting in an insurance company all day, talking to people on the phone, and then you come home at night, you're sitting in a little tiny bed sit. You can't really afford to go out because everything costs so much. So you just sit on Skype people, and you're not interacting with anybody. It's crazy. It's a crazy way to live your life.
One of the things I've been doing recently, just to manage my intake diet of what I'm visually, taking in, right? Because our diet is what we eat, what we watch, what we listen to, like it's all that. And you don't want to take in a bunch of toxic shit. And so I get my feed down on Facebook or Instagram or even LinkedIn, any of the platforms. I curate that to the only people who are educating me or inspiring me, and I don't follow anybody else. Like, so if I follow you, it means that you're educating me and you're inspiring me, uplifting me, because I'm really careful not going down that swipe screen if I'm getting a bunch of shit. Like if it's bringing me down, and if I find myself going, oh, I just lost a piece of my life. That's what it cost me. Like I want to be better after listening to you and talking to you, and elevate me.
Ooh. Me and Chris, that's some pressure now. I feel like I have to tell you. I have to give you some wisdom.
I know, man.
Me and Chris have said that before with things, Phil, where people talk about, it must be nice to have time to go and do jiu-jitsu. It must be time to go and climb. It must be good to have time to lift. And yet, as you say, they can spend 4 hours scrolling mindlessly through the social media.
Oh yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I love a binge on Netflix like anyone else. But just binging day after day after day, just watching Netflix continually, scrolling their social media at the same time. It comes down to what's your priority, and do you want to, improve your physical condition, your mental health, your mental conditioning through reading, through being inspired, through listening to different points of view and working through that. It plays into that whole part, as you're saying. It's that diet of not just Cheetos and pizza on the couch. It's everything that you're putting into your body and your brain.
Yeah, spot on.
One thing that I want to kind of go back to, Phil, is when you're talking about the tribe thing. Is it a real thing that people hate public speaking because when we were all tribes, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, when the only time you had to speak in public was when you had gotten shit and you were having to explain yourself in front of is that a real thing?
Every indigenous culture is different, and there's a few things that run through all indigenous cultures. Generally speaking, they're not afraid to express themselves. Generally, even when you're approaching, what we call a tribe, whether it be in Africa or in the Amazon basin, you hear them before you see them, because they're singing all the time and they laugh all the time. Like that's one thing. Like when you're talking about up on the volcano, nobody laughed, right? Nobody sings. Nobody is speaking and communicating and connecting. So the expression is really, really important. The way that people express themselves are really, really important. A lot of time spent exchanging information in indigenous cultures. In fact, there was a paper written decades ago from an anthropologist who was studying tribal cultures, and he did some research about how many hours it took per week for an indigenous person to create all of their needs, like that food, shelter, weapons, tools. 14 hours a week is what he came up with as what the general human body or system is designed to work, which means that the rest of the time is spent telling jokes, talking about the stars, talking about, God, sports, fucking, connecting stuff that is lifting, elevating us, instead of when you're saying those 40, 50 hours in the cubicle and then 3 hours of Netflix and then then you're bitching about how unsatisfying your life is. It's like, yeah, society's sick, and then your reaction to society is also sick. And one of my favorite quotes is by a guy named Krishnamurti. He was a Indian philosopher dude, moved to the United States. And he said, it is no measure of health to be well adapted to a profoundly sick society.
Yeah.
Heavy, right?
Yeah.
Society's sick and it's broken as shit. And then we're dropping in, and here we are, kind of successful dudes who have been well adapted to it. And you go, so are you really healthy? Are you really happy? Are you really high performing? Or have you just adapted yourself to this sick society? And so I think that there's a movement right now of going, this doesn't work for me anymore. I reject it. I reject this premise.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Shitty political systems, shitty food, shitty, and part of this long form conversation, this is one of those few bright lights of like, ooh, like here's an opportunity to authentically explore and discover some different ways of being that are healthier.
Yeah, absolutely. This is even me and Ali have talked about this, so many times. Is we just doing this podcast and just speaking to people, we are improving ourselves as human beings because we have to think. You really have to. So when you maybe have a conversation with somebody beforehand, you're not really listening. You're just kind of watching somebody's mouth and picking little bits and bobs up. Now we actually have to listen to what you're saying or whoever the guest is saying, because we have to actually form questions and opinions. And I want to go back to this. So and it really, it's made us more rounded. People have said things that make you go, "Oh, I never thought about this before," and that's a very good point. And you pick like somebody will say a book. As you're saying, the book Tribe, I've heard this talked about so many times. I might now go and have to look at it because you've said it's awesome. So you get all these different ideas, and it actually makes us better human beings. So I think there's nothing, if you think about what's on telly, most of the time it's fucking absolute nonsense. We all like some Netflix, right? But it's these are so good, and they've been extremely good for us. As men and human beings as well.
Do you guys follow Jordan Peterson?
Yeah, I've got 12 Rules of Life.
Yeah, he's one of the big thinkers right now, and I think he's going to go down as our generation's Carl Jung or Nietzsche, or he's going to be a big thinker. I think that has knock on wood, unless he's got something bad happen to him, because he's a volatile guy. But so anyway, he's important, man. Stay healthy, doctor, please. But one piece of this is he shares that human beings don't sit and think. Doesn't matter if you're watching this, reading this, you need to have a conversation. You need to talk it. It's the way that human beings process information. So if you're not writing notes or discussing, it's basically going into short-term memory, and you're not providing anything new for yourself. Like, this is how what we're doing right now is how we engage with the integration of turning knowledge into wisdom. And it's so important. It's just like, hey, we're exchanging ideas, making a better collective idea.
Yeah.
So super important.
Yeah, I think I think of Jordan Peterson as our generation's well, I suppose he was still the same generation really, but Christopher Hitchens. That's who he reminds me of. Such a fucking really a guy who's an intellect but makes everybody think. One of those very special thinkers, one of those very special human beings who makes people who are not really into this kind of thing, they make them go, oh, okay. A really important guy, as you say. One of the things that as we're just talking about, one of the things that I want to go back to. This is a funny thing. Because you mentioned the stars. You should look at the stars. I did a marathon just right on the border with England and Scotland, and it's in the darkest part of the skies. Is supposed to be the darkest in the UK because there's no light pollution. So I was speaking to some guy, you start at dusk, you run into the night. And I was speaking to some guy and I was saying, the only reason I entered this is because I wanted to try and see the Milky Way, doing a marathon, see the Milky Way, amazing. So these two women were running kind of next to us and they said, what's the Milky Way? And I went, you'll know it when you see it. And she went, yeah, but what is it? And it's just like, I mean, how the fuck do I explain? How do I explain to you what the Milky Way is? It's like everything. Like but she didn't know. This is a woman of, 45, 50 years old. She didn't know what the Milky Way was. You're like, fuck, have you never looked at the sky? Or you never just sat and looked at the sky and went, oh, fuck, that's huge.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible.
It does. One of the things you touched on there, Phil, where you were talking around Peterson, was you mentioned Jung. And I know you do a lot of work on the kind of Jungian philosophy. It's a book I read probably about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, and I think I'm going to have to revisit it because I think I was a little bit too young to fully appreciate it. And I always get the order mixed up, but King, Warrior, Magician, Lover?
Yep. Yeah, that's the book. Yeah, that's by Dr. Moore and Dr. Gillette from the University of Chicago, and it's one of the central books about masculine psychology, and a really, really important book. And it talks about there's 4 different quadrants of behavior that all men drop into, and that defines your role in the tribe. And it also defines your where you need to go to grow internally. So it's a masterwork. It really is an incredibly important thing. And we actually got that from the wolves about 35,000 years ago. Like, if you want to go out on a weird journey with me, human beings have been on the planet for about 300,000 years, and in Africa. And during that period of time, we were incredibly low-level scavengers. Like, they can look at fossils and they can see what killed the animal, and then the tooth marks on top of the kill stike are the scavengers, and then on top of those scavengers are the little cut marks of Homo sapien. And so we had almost no tools, no technology, no culture, no art. And we were very few of us. It's almost impossible to find a Homo sapien, fossil from that era, because we almost went out. We were almost extinct. Just looking at our genetics, there was a time in one of the last ice ages where we were down to about 5,000 of us on the fucking planet, bro. We're almost out. And then at 35,000 years ago, we flatlined as nothing, and then all of a sudden, boom, we became fully human. No biological changes. Exactly the biological the same, but cultural explosion of full representational art, ritual burials, music, weapons, like everything changed. And it was that exact moment in historical time when genetically the wolves, a little wolf skull for your viewers, when the wolves started their progress to becoming our dogs. So there was a confluence of when human beings were scavenging off of the apex predator on planet Earth. That was the wolf. A wolf pack at full power is the most dominant force on land in the history of the Earth. They have the widest range, the most effective predatory styles, and we basically stole their operating system. We have the ability to, neuroplasticity, that we can learn. Like, we have no instincts, but we have ability to install an operating system. Right? We're learners. So we basically just said, look at those animals. They win everything. Those are like a dynasty. Like, let's do what they do. And so when you look at our tribal systems, it's almost an exact match of wolf behavior. It's exactly the same. When you look at sports teams, military units, any sort of human team function, it's exactly the same in terms of its hierarchy of behavior as a wolf pack. And wolves have 4 different roles of behavior. They have the alpha leader wolf. They have the warrior, like heavy hitting combat wolves that go into the elk first. Then they have their specialists, like the site trackers and the specialist wolves. And then they have what's called the nanny wolf, which is basically the wolves that are high empathy, high compassion, and they don't even go hunt. They just stay home and guard and raise the alpha pair's pups. And because no other wolf breeds in the pack except the alpha pair. The rest are just built to support the pack, right? That's tribe. Tribes and wolf packs are the same. And I know I'm totally nerding out on you guys now.
No, that's cool.
But this is me singing for my supper. Most animals have a single hierarchy of power. Jordan Peterson, right? Lobsters.
Yeah.
And which means if you are a low-level lobster, lots of cortisol and very unsuccessful in resources, right? You get none of the ladies. If you're a little lame lobster, no ladies for you. But if you're the lobster or gorilla or lion or any other of these animals, you get all the ladies and all the food. You get everything, right? So you're built towards, if I can't be that, I'm nothing. And that's pride. That's our pride culture. It's shitty. It's dysfunctional. And it means I'm going to step on the people below me, right?
Yeah.
Instead of going, those people are me, which is the way that tribes operate. And the way the wolves, they have that hierarchy of power, but they put another hierarchy of connection, which means now if you look at those two things as being a continuum, like where are you on power and where are you on connection? And that places you in one of four different behaviors. And, and it says a tremendous amount about how you operate in the world. It says how you deal with trauma, conflict, innovation, change, everything. Super powerful. And those are, if you're the man that can run all four of those houses, you are the king of the four houses. That's my men's group.
Well, between all right. Okay, so now that makes sense. Okay, I get it. I understand now. So between me and Ali, we cover the four bases. But I'm the moron who's strong, and he would throw into battle first. And Ali is the thinker and the intellect and the compassionate one.
And you tend to say yes to too many things. You tend to get diffused. You say you're a little bit more innovative. You're quick to move, but you also get distracted and diffused by saying yes to too many things. Yeah, and that's compromised your success because you need to have the Ali who's able to go, hey man, stop trying to fucking boil the ocean, bro. Let's do one thing and do it really well. Because that's what he does. But when things get chaotic, he drowns and you surf, right? So you guys bring different types of angles of approach or attack on different situations, which makes you adaptable, right? And evolution is not survival of the fittest, men. Evolution is survival of the most adaptable. So upgrade your operating system. Watch some of these podcasts. Read a book. Get off fucking, whatever you're doing. Get off the Pornhub and Netflix and get learning.
Let's not get carried away here, Phil. Let's not get carried away.
Hey man, just saying, bro.
What's actually hilarious? This is 100% true. Is last weekend, 2 weekends ago, I did a triathlon. I haven't done a triathlon in over a year. And during lockdown, I'd been kind of fucking about, and I'd been, I'd done some boxing and jiu-jitsu and all sorts. As you've just said, do so many different things. Hadn't really done anything triathlon based at all. Hadn't swim, hadn't really ran, hadn't really cycled because I'd been hitting the bag more and lifting a lot of weights. Did a triathlon, and it was like, holy shit, I need to stop doing all this other shit and actually concentrate on this thing to get better again. I'm terrible at it again. So it's funny that you said that because it literally ties in with something that happened last week. 100% true.
You're like King Arthur, right? And you want to build a kingdom, Camelot, but you don't have Excalibur. Because you know who makes Excalibur? Who built Excalibur for Arthur?
Or Morgana Le Fay, Merlin.
Merlin, yeah. So
you see that? That's how this works. I'm the moron that would use the sword, but Ali knows about how to make it.
Exactly. And you know what? If he doesn't have anybody to use the sword, he's just fucking sitting in a cave making shit for no one, and he has no seat at the table and no voice. So like we're designed, and there's two other archetypes, right? There's lover and anyway. So those are the four archetypes that the king, the warrior, the magician, the lover, and gentlemen. You got to learn how to access those in you, and then you got to learn how to partner with the other men in your tribe, because it makes us the most ferocious, deadly, and successful species on planet Earth. But we've lost it, and it's not functioning well for us because we're creating a bunch of very, very low functioning men at this point. And my God, this is the time for strong men again.
Yeah. Do you think one of the reasons we're missing it, Phil, and after you talk about me being the thinker, the word has escaped my brain completely, but we don't have any more of those, and I'll just use for the word of it, like the ceremonies or the threshold events where you go from a child to being a man. We've kind of lost that, particularly in the Western world. Do you think that's had an impact on it?
Oh, God, vastly impactful. And men, and we're different than women. Women tend to have the ability to self-initiate or move just organically from an adolescent psychology. Girls become women. Like they just do it better than we do. That's not true for men, because we are raised by our moms, right? And what's our mom's job? Domesticate us so that we're not a little fucking shitty kid with shit in his pants and snot and saying fuck all the time. Our moms domesticate us, and our moms keep us safe. So we're little boys, right? It's like, okay, be nice, be the nice guy, and be safe. And then at about 13, 14, it's time to take the nice guy and now move to your father's house, and he's going to now let you be a man. He's going to upgrade your operating system and say, okay, we're going to take that domesticity and now we're going to add it into service. Now you're going to actually power up. And you know what? It's no longer time for those childish things. So you used to play video games. You used to be able to scroll on the internet. But now I need you to be a warrior. I need you to be a craftsman. I need you to defend the kingdom. I am going to now allow you to join the men. And it's the biggest honor you will ever have. It never happened for us. So now we're stuck being this little nice guy boy who's pretending to be a man, but it's a different operating system. And so that's what you see when you look out across the terrain, the landscape of men. You're seeing a bunch of adult males, not men. Yeah. And so a belt ceremony, is that's an initiation, a little initiation. Going through basic training in the military, a little initiation. And we're desperately trying to find these little pieces so I can now claim, my kingdom. Because when I'm a little prince, the currency of the prince is external validation, and I will never ever have enough to make me enough. Whereas the currency of the king, that's the kingdom. I don't need your validation anymore. Well, you don't like me? Fuck off. Because you know what? I'm doing bigger things. I am building, I'm maintaining my kingdom and my people and my purpose. So I don't need all that little shit anymore. And that's where we're going as men. And it's really important we get there. Otherwise, we're just going to end up having these little tantrums burning down our cities. Yeah.
How do you think we get back to that? How do you think we get back to that right now? Population's enormous. There's so many people, and there's so many, for the lack of a better word, just little bitches, fucking bitches who are, really embarrassment to men. For the lack of a better word, they're, a real embarrassment to mankind. How do you think we get back to being fucking men?
Yeah. Some of it is recognizing that we're going to have to go back. And I don't mean technologically, but when you start reading what like the Stoic philosophers, Marcus Aurelius, and when you start reading that shit, something opens up in you. Like you can't read Marcus Aurelius and not go, oh my God. Like it doesn't matter what a little bitch you are. If when you read Marcus Aurelius, you go, damn, it's time to raise my game. And we're built to model off of other men. That's how humans learn, right? It's like, hey, what are you doing? So when you see young men like yourself who are smart, who are idealistic, who are virtuous, and then who are still doing weights, triathlons, jujitsu. Like, okay, wow, somebody has blazed a path for me, and it's still there. You know, it's a choice that I can join those men on that journey. But if I don't have good men who are guarding the exits, I'm going to quit when it gets hard, because every organism is going to take the path of least resistance, and that's why initiation isn't like a casual fun thing of like, you know what, I watched a podcast and now I'm an initiated man. Like initiation fucking sucks, just like lifting weights in a triathlon and jiu-jitsu, it sucks. So it's to be able to get pushed through that abyss or across that threshold, you need to have good men who are going to do that. And right now in our current culture, because we're so diffused, if you remove alcohol, sports, and your job, none of you fuckers have friends. None of you do. Like who you got at that point? And so who's going to help you push across the goal line when you're tired, when you're sick, when you're distracted, when you're weak? And we're all weak, right? So that's the game. And a lot of these things are starting to happen. You know, men's groups. I'm so excited to see more guys doing jiu-jitsu and exploring hunting again, or at least open to the idea of hunting, you know. Reading the books. Peterson.
Yeah. Sorry, Phil, jumping in. I was going to say the jiu-jitsu one particularly, I know Chris knows as well, but we both train with my son, who's now 17, nearly 18, but he came along at like 15 because he was struggling massively with just stuff that teenagers go through. And he came along to the jiu-jitsu at like probably 5'8", 5'9", about 7 stone, which is what, about 130 pound maybe. You know, quite a small guy. And having to roll with guys like Chris, roll with guys like me. But I've also said I think it was good for him because he got to see me as someone other than dad as well. You know, he saw me interacting with guys like Chris, giving Chris a bit, getting a lot of shit back from guys and not running away crying. And it was like, yeah, the schools and maybe, you know, in certain circumstances it could be foreseen as bullying. But in reality, what it is guys bantering and testing each other out and pushing each other in front of, you know, where the boundaries are.
100%, and that's how you're getting to see men interact. Like, how do men behave? And it used to be that you went to go work with your dad on the farm, you know, and you would see like here's how men deal with defeat. Here's how they deal with exhaustion. Here's how they deal with victory. Here's how they deal with conflict. And you know, you got introduced to this operating system of men. And now, you know, nobody has it. So they're terrified. Men are terrified of each other. They're terrified of conflict. And, you know, like when you roll for the first time, like you see new guys go in there and they're on the bottom or in side control and they start to see this panic and you go, hey, man, this is going to be forever. So relax. Like this is how apes, wolves, this is how we play with each other. So, you know, it's not the monster that you think it is. It's actually it's not the dragon you have to fight anymore. It's the dragon you get to ride. Right? Game of Thrones, bro.
What's hero's journey.
What's you know, what's interesting is, you know, as you know, Ali was saying there with his boy, you know, in terms of, you know, having fun and taking the piss, and the thing is as well as when shit really goes south and things go bad, those people who take the piss out of you and make fun of you, will 100% have your back.
Mm.
100. If you're I know it's a friend of mine had cancer a couple of years ago, and I was in the gym when he phoned me. A guy that have fun, take the piss at him all the time. So when he phoned me, I was in the gym, and he phoned me, and he was in tears, and it's one of those things where you go, just don't move. I'm fucking coming now. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Drop my shit and fucking went. And it's one of those things where you can have fucking fun, but if it's somebody who's properly a man will have your back. Doesn't matter what's happening, man. I'll be there. Give me 10 minutes. I'll be there. I've got it. Let's do this. Let's kill this thing together. So yeah, it's one of we all have fun and we give each other shit, but it's important to also know that those same people who are giving you shit have got your back. That's an important circle of people to be around about, man.
You're lucky to have that.
Yeah.
And one of my markers is if you're gonna move, if you have to move, which is a shitty job, how many friends are gonna come help you move? How many you got? All you guys watching this right now, how many men are gonna help you move? That's your tribe. Those are your dudes. And if you don't have any, better fucking find some, because the lone wolf dies, right? There is no such thing as the lone wolf. So it's not you're not being independent and self-reliant and cool if you're the lone wolf. You're fucking starving to death. Like get your crew.
I know one of my friends, a former guest, Johnny Payne, real good strength and conditioning coach. Does a lot of crazy ultra marathons and stuff. And we were talking once, and he said, you'll find out who your friends are when you phone them at 4 a.m. and you're in shit. How many answer the phone? How many say, I can't just now. I'd love to help you. And the ones that will go, I'll be there. Where are you? Tell me where you are. I'm coming now. Those are the ones where you go, yeah, that's my crew.
Yeah,
and you might only have 3 or 4 of those guys, but those are the ones. Those are the ones that you want in your life, man. 100%. So we're cracking on with time here, folks. There's a few things I wanted to ask you about. You work with some incredible companies, some real the biggest companies in the world. So what is this? What is it basically? What are you doing with those companies?
I'm doing a very similar version to this, right? Except with a few less fucks. Yeah. I'm talking about the operating system of their teams, or I'm talking about the operating system of their leadership. And we call it, the fancy word is culture, right? And the culture of a team is more important than anything else. It's more important than technology or your business plan or your market share, any of that shit. It is who are the people and what are the relationships that are driving that behavior. Really, really important. And so a lot of that has to do with what are they navigating off of as a tribe, right? And that's your vision. And this is good for all of your people who are watching. It's good for families. It's good for a jiu-jitsu school. Like whoever's watching this, you need to be navigating off of the same North Star, right? And because there's 1,000 different mountains you can climb, you need to climb it together. So if you don't have a clarity about where it is you're going, then you're kind of fucked at that point. Second one is, so you found the right mountain. Now there's an endless amount of journeys up that mountain, and you need to do it together. Again, collaboration, reciprocity. This is the superpower of humanity. So how do you do that? And the corporate word for that is values. Our values are what literally are driving our decision-making process. So either as an individual, like a corporate executive, or as a team of people solving a very important problem, how do we solve it? And do we sacrifice our customers to make more profit? There's an endless amount of choices in the way we're navigating that. And the word decide contains the root of the word homicide and suicide and insecticide. It means to cut or kill. So every decision I make has a cost. It's not free, to do whatever it is you're choosing to do, eating or watching or even watching this show right now. It's costing you something to watch this show right now. And the cost is what else you could have been watching right now. So be really, really smart about what you're investing your time in, because it really is the thing that defines your habits and your destiny. And so I'm taking a lot of this philosophical stuff and I'm shoving it into a business arena to help people innovate, help retention, employee engagement, basically making them more money. But my agenda is secretly introducing kinship systems, right? Because I want to elevate the human conversation. And I know that high performing, kinship teams are resilient. They have high retention and they end up making a lot more money. But it's just it's my way to, increase just the happiness and health of our species.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's I think it's important for a lot of these companies. I feel like a lot of these massive companies. So you've worked with like SpaceX, is that one of them? Like Microsoft, so like literally the biggest companies in the world. And it feels like those companies would become, because they're so enormous, they become a little bit soulless, a little bit lost, and there's no, just a little bit. Yeah, a little bit lost and kind of soulless, I would imagine. So to have somebody come in and give them some direction and some kind of purpose and meaning again seems like a fucking awesome idea.
It kind of goes back, Phil, to what you were just saying, though. As Chris is saying, companies that you're working with, big Fortune 500 companies, they've almost become the city, haven't they? In this.
Yeah.
Whereas you're trying to get back to the tribe rather than the city side of it.
100%. And people don't realize how important their job is. A lot of people look at their job as a means to live their life. And the reality is you spend your life at your job. It's the center of your life. It's the center 4 squares on the chessboard, which without, like if you've already surrendered those 4 squares, you're not winning the chess game. It doesn't matter what vacation you have planned or what concert you're going to, you're still not having meaning and purpose in your life. Like you have to claim the center of your life. And that includes your coworkers, because whoever you spend the most time with in your life are the most important people in your life. Right? So a lot of times they go, oh, that's just Jim from work. He's a coworker. No, he's not. He's a fucking tribesman. You better get connected to that dude because you're spending your life with him. So you need to have meaning and purpose and some sort of authenticity with that dude. Otherwise, like you've already surrendered, you're bleeding out right there, your soul. Yeah. And so for me, like, there are a lot of big companies that have become soulless machines, but the teams in the companies, those 20 dudes and ladies on like the sales team or whatever it is, that's a tribe. They have got to make that meaningful and fulfilling, and that's really where I'm doing the work, and that's your job too. Who are watching this, is you got to own that. You got to own that boundary.
Wise words. Wise words.
Super cool.
Yeah, I know. We're just gone past 9 o'clock. So it'll be like one way, and the West Coast there. I know you've got some more meetings to go to, right? So
I do. I'm actually working with a team in Africa right now.
Okay.
I'm working with it's a big company that does like AIDS relief in Africa, and I would never have gotten to do that job except we're doing this weird remote quarantine thing, and all of a sudden I get to not only talk to you, dude, I get to work with a team, in different countries. Yeah. So this is adaptability, and I want to leave you guys with this. The word crisis in Mandarin, in Chinese, includes 2 characters. One is danger, and then the other is opportunity. So again, decide how you are going to respond to what the world has given you. If you think it's danger, then just welcome to cortisol and drama, right? This is an opportunity. This is the most exciting fucking opportunity in the history of humanity. Like, we're being forced to adapt and to transform and evolve. So, dude, ride the wave, paddle hard. Don't bail. This is the wave. Get on it.
Phil, you are a cool motherfucker. I feel like I feel like we'll have to speak to you again at some point. I feel like there's so much stuff left on the table.
Anytime, boys. Anytime.
Yeah, we'll
Just-
I think we'll speak to you at some point again. Yeah, definitely.
Just
Hey.
before we go out here, Phil, if people are looking to find out more about you and your work, where can they find you on the internet, social media, places like that? And we'll tag all this into the notes as well.
Yeah. My website is mywolftribe.com, and there's a bunch of information on there. You're welcome to, explore that. And then, gentlemen, I'm part of a men's group called K4, so King of the Four Houses. We talked about it, and the website is K4men.com. K4men.com, and I got a cohort starting up October 1st. If any of you gentlemen are, and it's remote, right? So any of y'all from over there in Great Britain wanna pop on over? Be good to have you.
We'll send them your way, definitely.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab one of your t-shirts as well, man. I like that. I like that Wolf Tribe t-shirt. So
Baby.
yeah, I'll get one of those. But yeah, it's been a really interesting and insightful conversation. So yeah.
All right, Ali, Chris, absolute pleasure.
It was
Thanks,
a
Phil.
pleasure. Thank you very
Episode
much.
41, done and dusted.
The Silly Goose Gang Podcast.